Welcome to Key Conversations, a Making It in the Music Business podcast. My goal for this podcast is to help you learn from these conversations with both experts and working musicians and serve as a guide to assist your career in the process. I'm your host, Cheryl B. Englehart. Let's get going. Hello.
Hello.
It's like stereo, right?
Hey.
Audio podcast, stereo. So I'm here with Chandler and Jay Coyle. They're brothers.
Yep.
And they work for musicians in a variety of different ways. I'm going to let them tell you about that, but I'm really excited to have both of them. And, you know, we're going casual. We're at South by Southwest. We're sitting on the floor of a massive ballroom where it's quiet because there's not a lot of places in Austin that are quiet right now. And so welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So why don't you each, I know you work in the realm of supporting artists, but why don't you each tell just a quickie what you guys do?
Like Cheryl said, I'm Jay Coyle. I started a consultancy back in 2006 called Music Geek Services. The main intent was to serve artists so that they could directly communicate and engage with their fans, and then through that parlay in kind of marketing and strategy, digital, really allowing them to build businesses and careers around their fans. It's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, fan-focused.
Yeah, fan-focused, engagement, and really understanding how to build a career around that.
Awesome. Love it.
Yep. And I do similar work, or I was watching him do a couple years of really fun work with Barenaked Ladies and other artists, and I was working in the tech and marketing space thinking, I'm almost as big of a music fan as this guy. Could you use some technical help from that perspective? And so I started working with him in about 2010. Mm-hmm. We'd work on some projects together. We work on some projects separately. We, just sort of been building his Music Geek Services brand over the years into something where people are now seeking us out for projects, crowdfunding projects or marketing projects or project management, merchandising projects. So
all projects that have to do very heavily with the fans.
Absolutely.
There you go. There's the theme.
My motto, like specifically when I talk to artists, is like, hire me to help you out with something so you can spend more time creating your art.
Yes.
Let me, either I'll do it for you or I'll do it with you, take some headaches off your plate so you can focus on the creative stuff.
I would also say for him, he's overlaid a lot of the digital space for me.
Yeah.
Because Chandler is so much more technical, especially like in a most recent project, I brought him in for a new album by the band Buffalo Tom through my friend's record label, and we were talking strategy, but I still needed an execution. So Chandler was brought in to really offer high-touch execution from a digital space. And in most of our, neither of us said this before, most of our clients are self-managed. So a lot of times it's, to Chandler's point, hey, come on, and we'll help you, and we'll guide you, and teach you. But a lot of it is, we'll do it too, because you're the artist, and you don't have enough time to do it. So that's why you'd want to work with us.
You're on tour, you're composing, you're co-writing or whatever, performing. We'll be there on a small scale or a big scale. Right.
That's awesome. Yeah. And most of the self-managed artists are not able to do, people all the time are like, hey, do you have like a really active YouTube channel, or do you have and I'm like, just add it to the list of the things that I need to be doing on my own. So it's cool if they're like, hey, there's this thing that's really working right now in the digital space. Oh, you're already maxed out? Cool, we can take that on for you, whatever that is. I mean, I just got the YouTube thing because that's something that...
No, that's true. A lot of artists
came to me, but...
a lot of artists need to chase the short-term dollars because they have bills to pay. Right. So that's performing, selling T-shirts or whatever. And the idea is, this day and age, the social channels, including YouTube, SoundCloud, Snapchat, Twitter, whatever, it's sort of a long-term game. There's some short-term benefit, but Spotify analytics is really not going to pay your bills, but if you watch it over time, you can spot trends and make sure your bio's up to date or the photos are up to date. And that's where artists say to me, can you just do that, please?
Just handle that.
Just help us. Just set it up for me.
I also think it's important, though, to your point, if you have a list of, I need to do that, if something's connecting and something's giving you immediate return, either gaining fans or monetarily, my suggestion is always, well, then don't go crazy to do everything, because if you're connecting on one thing, that's great. And then over time, if you can build and find more time or hire somebody to help you, then it's like, okay, hey, focus on this because I'm busy doing over here doing that. It's just building out your team.
So if an artist comes to you guys and they're like, So here's what's working. Do you want to take what's working for them and enhance it? Or you're like, okay, cool, let's look at the stuff that's not working and improve that? Or does it depend artist to artist? Like, what would you rather hit the ground running with?
I would say it's both, because it really depends on immediate goals and then long-term goals. But if something is working and they can manage that, I never approached somebody and said, here, I used to do this. I learned the hard way. You don't say, this is broken, you're doing this wrong. It's kind of like, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Or, because I'm a salesman at heart, I look at an opportunity and say, that's great, but what if we did this? And how about I do this and I can add value here? Mm-hmm. And as Chandler said, now we're at a point in our careers where people are approaching us to do things, and there's now a knowledge base to say, we'll get this question, well, what can you do for me?
Right.
Usually, I turn it back on them and say, well, what do you want?
Usually there's a pain point.
Yes.
And like a client will say, I need this. And they're so focused on that if you see something bigger, they still focus on this thing that's just, they think. They're obsessing about this thing. So that's usually where, like, the foot in the door for us is solve the artist's pain point and then quickly attack anything that big that they're missing.
Right.
So if you should have a YouTube channel or you should be doing something, I may hold off on that because you're like, but my mailing list.
Right.
And then, so we try to get in and understand the artists, because some of them are really, really care about the voice, the message, mastering the message, making sure that their voice comes through on any social or email. And some other artists are like, I don't care, just sell more music. And so we don't know that off out of the gate.
Yeah.
But for me, it's usually a pain point. Like, whenever someone approaches me, I try to figure out why they're approaching me.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a general, I think I need to be doing more.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where I'll go for, like, the low-hanging fruit to get them excited and make some more money. But sometimes you usually can suss out that they just hate using MailChimp, and they want someone to make it easier for them.
Yeah, which is not even something that maybe we as artists know coming into the conversation. We think, okay, I want to get my mailing list better, but then the bigger question underneath that is, why? Oh, I want to do a fan funding campaign, really, and I don't have the fans to do that yet. So it's more about, like, oh, you need to finance the next record. Like, there's pulling out a bigger picture, and we artists tend to get a little funnel vision with, like, or tunnel vision.
Yeah, I like tunnel vision, but it's
funnel vision.
Funnel vision is the positive.
Yeah.
Building
growing out, coming in with tunnel vision, but then actually...
Funnel vision.
So it might even... I would imagine that the ideal client comes in and being like, here's what's so right now. This is what I've got in place. And then you guys say, oh, here where the holes are, or here's what we can enhance, or here, like that's what I like to work with too when I'm talking to musicians, is sort of get the what's so right now and what do you actually want. And sometimes they're like, just to make money with music. And I'm like, that's not inspiring. Like, that's not going to get you out of bed in the morning. That's going to, that's survival mode. And survival mode is not a motivator to me, at least.
Right. What's interesting is I found over the years, when we do approach artists to either seek out them as a client or reverse, they've come to us, what we've both morphed into is, we call it project management, but really what we've morphed into is more of a consultant as a manager. Mm-hmm. There are some artists that get very scared by that term, so I never say I can be your manager. I never say I want to manage you. Right. But what ends up happening is, like you just said, hey, I'm seeing you're not doing this, or I have those true, well, what do you want? What do you really want? I've heard it a lot, because I've done almost 40 plus pledge music campaigns with strategy and executed, and a lot of times like, well, I just want to raise money for my record. Okay, that's great. That's literally just a blip. What do you really want? Well, and then the message comes out, well, I really had a bad relationship with this manager, or I've had a bad relationship with this label. I want to do it on my own. I'm scared to do it on my own. I don't know what I want to do after. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of calming them down and saying, okay, I'm going to partner with you. And that's kind of my tagline, is I'm going to partner with you. You're not hiring me, I'm partnering with you. A great word. And let's walk through this. And sometimes it's a season where it lasts years. Sometimes it's a season where it lasts 3 or 4 months. And it just really depends on what they want for their big term goals. Yeah. But you said, to me, it's, I don't want to overwhelm the artist, and I want them to have tunnel vision for what we're doing, but at the same time, if I have to kind of over time say, ooh, if I spread them too wide and they're not tunnel anymore, then they start to get fearful, and then they retract their I've seen literally some of my clients start to close off, and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. I won't. We can do this later.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that
Overwhelm
later.
is a very powerful stopper right there. And I don't think tunnel vision is focus or whatever you want to call it is a bad thing, but sometimes we artists are like, I want 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Like, who cares? Like, why? Right. So if you've got tunnel vision around something that's actually not going to make a difference for your career, and you're so busy in taking all these actions in somewhere that's not that effective, then you're not actually moving forward in a way with velocity the way you could be. So yes, getting focused and all that stuff, I think is a good thing. But
there's many ways to get to where you want to go.
Yes.
And over the years, too many times I'll talk to an artist and I'm like, but I need this. I'm like, but why? And it's somewhere they've seen somebody succeed to that point, or someone's told them they need to do that. I'm like, okay, but we don't have to go straight down this line. We could go here and then here and zigzag to the same end point. Is that a better route? And they're like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. And so a lot of it, like I said, it's partnering. It's let's walk this together. Let's go down here together.
When I realized that I wanted to be someone who was able to help musicians when I started speaking on these panels and stuff, I actually realized that my story is how I got my placements and tours and fan funding and stuff was like my story, like the one way I did it to get here. And people were asking me, like, how can I do what you did? And I realized I actually went out and got coaching training, like 750 hours of career coaching training, so I could be better at listening and not just being like, well, this is what worked for me, because there are 100 other ways to do that same thing that I just did.
Yes.
That may be more in line with you and your brand and your process and how you work and everything. So that was important to me to be able to like speak outside of my own experience, because what you said, there's 100 billion ways to do literally anything. Yeah. Which leads me to my next question. So Chandler and I were just on an email panel. You guys know I'm dorking out this year on email marketing.
You should.
Which I should. So you being the digital techie guy, if you were just to throw out a list of like the top 5, and maybe not even with email marketing, the top 5 not so obvious platforms, apps, digital tools that we may not know about as artists, that a self-managed artist could really enhance whatever they're doing.
Their presence. Yeah.
What comes to the top of your mind if you were just to like throw out some digi tools?
Well, I like to think of artists should think of or any creative really. So if you're a touring artist or writing jingles, you want to make sure that your online channel, we call them like artist channels or creator channels.
Yep.
From the obvious ones are Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you get those socials. But then for a touring artist, you'll have a presence on Songkick and Bands in Town. You may not even realize it. People are tracking you on those channels.
You need to be on both.
Yes.
Okay,
and
great.
there's a reason, a technical, zoom in for a moment. Spotify pulls data from Songkick.
Okay.
I think Bands in Town, like both services push data out to different other channels.
Got it.
Like I think Bandcamp and Spotify pull data from Songkick, and I think Noise Trade pulls data from Bands in Town as well as other services. It's surprising to notice that mid-level to smaller artists, their dates aren't always complete, because what those services do is they go out to Ticketmaster and the big ticketing things, and they scrape those and get the data. So you might be an artist, and you go out and you see that there's 5 of your 7 upcoming dates in there, which is awesome. But then put the other 2 in. Bands in Town has a messaging feature.
Yep.
So I work with an artist that has like 72,000 people tracking her.
Well,
and we realized that we hadn't been messaging, and so we started messaging. During tours, we'll message once a week or once every 10 days, and in between tours, we use it to promote music or a new video or something.
So you almost use it like a mailing list, even though none of those people are. Because the mailing list that she has is not 72,000.
No.
Is there a way to get those people on in the mailing list so you have a little more?
We've been strategically sweeping people, and it's hard these days. A sort of like an anti-tip is don't rely on one MP3 to motivate people to sign up to your mailing list. There's 2 types of people new to your music, but if they're already tracking you on something, Facebook or Instagram or whatever, they're aware of you, and they probably aren't on your mailing list. I always like the assumption for social followers, it's surprisingly low number of people are actually on your mailing list. Like I've seen artists with say 10,000 Facebook likes and 1,000 mailing list subscribers. So there's a disconnect there.
Yep.
But on Bands in Town, what we do is I'll come up with some way to get them to click over, like, over to a web landing page, which has an email for media download. Or sometimes it's just as simple like going to announce a tour next week, sign up to be the first to hear about the dates, or pre-sale
The
code.
exclusivity might be just as powerful as like a free download, if they may or may not already have something that they. So cool.
There's a new channel, Google.
I've heard of it.
Google.
Yep.
Small little company.
Yep.
If you're an artist and you search for yourself, some of you will see a knowledge panel on the right. You don't even have to be that big. At some point, Google tracks the information, and there's a knowledge panel. The fine folks at Bandzoogle wrote an ebook that tells you how to get one. And once you have one, Google gives you the ability to post an artist's message on that knowledge panel. And you can post it. I think you can post as much as you want. So what we're doing now is for one artist I work with, she was recently on tour. So we were promoting each tour stop. And now the tour's over. And so I posted a message the other day, which was sign up for the mailing list. And I haven't seen a lot of signups yet. But Google tells you how many people see that. And for her, it was 400 people per day were seeing those posts. And
That's
so
awesome.
that means that people who are searching for her or something related to her, the knowledge panel shows up and those posts show up. And right now you can link to anything. You can link to your website.
Amazing.
So you could be posting something in there, and all you have to do is verify that you are
Me.
You're basically a person of note. Sports teams, comedians, artists, or whatever,
I am a sports team and a comedian.
Yeah.
It's
You're
amazing.
all
An actor.
You will never guess what sport it is, but no, just kidding.
Mountain climbing? No.
No, that's my husband. I sit at the bottom and drink wine or
There you
coffee or
go.
espresso.
As he's doing his thing.
Yeah.
But this is brand new with Google, and so
That's awesome.
no one's using it yet. And I'm sure at some point it'll be overloaded. But if someone's searching for you, and you can then message, it's not in their face, but it's
on that bar. And I go to that all the time when I'm like about to Wikipedia someone, but the info I'm looking for comes up right on the side there. I'm like
served for
yes.
you. You're like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, I feel like it's not intrusive. So inthekeyofsuccess.com/podcast will be where all of these notes are and links to anything that has come out of these guys' mouths. So I will find that article, that workbook from Bandzoogle, which I saw, and I was like, I am doing this right now.
I was going to be on a panel with the Bandzoogle guy who wrote that book, and then I created my own panel last year at South by, but he wrote a series of articles, and they turned it into an ebook, and that's my Bible for SEO related, search engine optimization related stuff, including the knowledge panel. But this Google Post thing is brand new, last week.
Yep. And I saw that. I was like, this is on my plane home to-do list stuff.
It's
the other sort of
Wi-Fi.
tip thing that people don't think about for artists that perform live, you don't even have to tour. Just if you're playing a live show at a venue, Google will list your events in that knowledge panel.
Very cool.
And if somebody types, band name space events, you see the events listed at the top of the search thing. Where does that information come from? Well, bands can actually help make sure that their information is there. One, if you use Bandzoogle automatically feeds any dates you put into the Bandzoogle system. But Bands in Town, if you put the Bands in Town listing on your website, so if your website's tour page is either Songkick or Bands in Town, Google crawls that page and uses that data because it's in the proper format.
So another reason to sign up for Bands in Town
and to use it. One artist, I can't remember who's, but some artists will, Bandzoogle has a great database and they feed Google. So if you're using Bandzoogle, put your dates in there, that's fine. But if you're using Squarespace, they connect with Bands in Town. I recommend using Bands in Town.
And then embedding the code, because
Right.
that's what I do on my website. And my website is Bandzoogle.
Right.
But I only want to put my stuff in one place, and then I have my Bands in Town
it'll
tab
work
on my
fine.
Facebook page,
Yeah.
and like, so that's why I like all my appearances, even when I'm speaking or playing, like anything where someone could come, I put it into Bands in Town and embed that code into my Bandzoogle page. But so you're saying to put all of your data into Bands in Town and into Songkick.
It can be a lot of work. Like
too bad they don't feed each other.
I know.
Can they play nice?
No, they can't play nice.
Can they play nice
They're
in the same
competing.
box?
Well, Songkick is now owned by a major label.
Can't they take a lesson from you guys? Look at you guys,
Yeah.
like brothers. I mean,
Doing it
come on,
together.
come
it
on.
together. But you do right now because of the Spotify thing. It's like a huge reason why you need to also be in Songkick.
All right, fine, I'll do that.
You're on Spotify?
I am on Spotify. Hi. Let's make
I
sure.
think you just decided to be quiet for a moment.
It's still going.
It's still recording.
It's still going. This is a little longer one. That's okay. We're at 20 minutes.
yeah,
but
I mean,
this is great.
The concerts, the reason why you want to be on Songkick is Spotify puts your shows on your concerts listing. And they will, for each Spotify user, they will send out periodic emails that say upcoming shows in your area.
I've been seeing that.
Yes.
When I follow someone, I'm like, I don't care why they... Okay, cool.
But so
that's why.
So I live in Chicago, and I will occasionally get an email from Spotify, and on the list is people I follow. And the way they get that data is that if your data's in Songkick, and Spotify will pull it, and then you may or may not show up in that email.
Yeah.
Well, you show up in the emails. You may or may not realize which ones you're showing up in, but it's not just Foo Fighters level.
Right.
It's
not
any
just big
level.
levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so...
Oh, and Spotify follows. Spotify not paying a lot per stream, whatever. Encourage your fans to follow you on Spotify.
Yes.
And the reason why is because when you put new music on there, the more followers you have, the more likely that you'll show up in Release Radar and the other Discover Weekly, the algorithmic playlists. Mm-hmm. It helps drive activity. So if your fans don't follow you, they may not think, oh, her new single comes out today or her new album. So Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music. Encourage your fans to follow you. It's another social channel.
Yeah, and that's that's not like a PS in an email. Like you could send out in terms of
absolutely.
email content, like a very brief, like this is important for a lot of mathematical geeky reasons. Please follow me here. Boom, bye. Thank you. See you next week.
Yeah,
like it could be a real...
Be intentional about it.
Yeah, very intentional. Not just have it as a link with all the other links. With
It could. I mean, a lot of artists that I work with say, "I'm off tour. I'm not doing anything. We don't need to send an email out this month." And I'm like,
"Oh, yes, that's a perfect.
Let's send out a call to action to Spotify." Well, not everyone's on Spotify. I'm like, well, then not everyone will care. But let's just use this because then it's one thing to do.
Right.
Follow me on Spotify.
Will you please make it a yes or no question?
And make it
not a command.
Do a little of. It's more like, hey, you can help me by following me on Spotify.
Yeah, because that's what they want. They want to know. They're like, I knew her when. Like people love that. Like I was on that mailing list well before, and if you can help me get there, that's an incentive for them, and it gives them like a social boost when they know that they can be your hero. That's the thing I just learned from this big digital marketing conference, that the humanness of being like. Instead of, it was in the conversation of giving something away for an email, but when you're at that point where you're like, but what else? And it's a social what do they call it? Yeah, like social climbing almost. Like that, it's important to human beings to be elevated socially, and they listed all these different ways that people can feel that, and one of the ways is to be someone else's hero, someone who's a public figure. So if you're, an artist is mailing a massive list and they're, sort of a public figure, even if they're not huge artists, if you can help them and you're the hero, like that gives you a leg up on your social, like, oh, I get to be, like that feeling is something that people actually will give something for, an email or whatever, which I thought was super interesting and very like psychological, not in the normal conversation of selling digital products, where we're like sell. It's actually a very human thing. So tapping into that, I think, is really, really cool. Like you can help me by just simply following. And my other thing about not being a command, like go follow me, it's like linguistically that is the same as come to my house and vacuum my house.
Yes,
vacuum my house. Like why people would be like, gross. So even just watch how you word the requests and make it a request so people can say yes or no and don't feel like
it's a positive. Rather say,
yeah,
we're not making money in music today, so I need to do this crowdfunding campaign.
Yes.
That's not good. But
that's not inspiring. Yeah.
I'm come along for the journey.
Come along for the journey and watch me make my album and help. You can help me support my art by pre-ordering my album through Pledge Music, or my music's available on Spotify. You can help me out by following me.
Yeah.
I'm excited about having my entire catalog up there, and I've created a playlist. That's the other sort of like cool thing is artists can create playlists that mix their music with music perhaps that inspired or influenced.
Yeah, I love that.
And
I love
what I do for an artist is she curates a playlist, and we don't make different playlists. What we do is we change the name of it and the content of the playlist periodically. So she has like 700 people who follow that playlist, and they know that this is sort of like what she's listening to. So if she's about to go on tour, she's like, this is my playlist that I'll be listening to on the in the van or on the tour bus.
Cool.
And then something else comes out, and she's like, okay, wipe that clean. We're going to make a new playlist, but but you don't
lose
start
those followers.
From scratch, right?
Yes.
It's not.
I love that.
We
it's just her playlist, and you change the top.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's brilliant.
It's been slowly building. It's a little hard to get people to follow a playlist because if you don't ask, you don't get.
Exactly.
So we've been encouraged periodically, and a lot of when you get to a certain level and you're working with like a label or a distributor or a booking agent who will tell you to promote the tour, they'll say, make a Spotify playlist, and you're like, well, what does that do for me? And it's just another little little penny of positivity towards doing
it's another
things.
little gift you can give someone who doesn't want to make a playlist or know how to, and you're like, oh, cool.
I also think the playlisting concept, the reason why it's so important to everybody in the industry side of things, like a label or a distributor, because, as I say, Spotify, if you play nice with Spotify, then Spotify wants to play with you. Like, meaning, if you're driving people to their platform, they're like, oh, this artist cares about us as a company, and so it's the kind of goodwill mentality. But the other side of things is, like Chandler said, it's a social avenue. From a branding perspective, if you're making playlists that speak to you and you can extend who you are as an artist through the messaging of music, why wouldn't you want to take advantage of that, especially because it's free?
Amazing.
So I consult with one band that I'm going to give me playlists, because and I'll give them a bunch of different topics, and it's like you really can't fault anybody's choice on why they select the songs, but I say use it as a challenge to basically, what do you want to tell your fans?
Yeah.
Either if you're on cycle for a new record, talk about the inspiration and what you're writing.
Amazing.
Or if you're doing reissue campaigns, then it's obviously great to talk about, these were acts that were big around the time that we made this record, and we're going to tour this record. From those. It's just an extension of who you are as an artist. And I think that's a great tool, because then it's something else to give your fans to feel close and connected to.
Which brings us full circle back to the fans, how we started. I know you guys have to go because there's so much to do here at South by, so I'm going to cut it off here, and we could talk forever and ever and ever, but thank you. This was great. There's so much action. So in thekeyofsuccess.com/podcast, there's going to be like the to-do list to do from this conversation. And where can people find you online, social? Where's the best place to find?
Well, the webpage is musicgeekservices.com.
Musicgeekservices.com.
And then online for Twitter and Instagram on Music Geek J.
And I'm
J-A-Y.
Yes, J-A-Y.
Music Geek J.
On Twitter, I'm Chandler Coyle, so at Chandler Coyle, Coyle.
Great, and I'll link to all this stuff for you guys.
Cool.
But thank you guys so much.
You,
this is really, really great.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks.
Please don't forget to rate, like, and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and YouTube if you like this podcast. Musicians like you keep me inspired and motivated, and for doing that, I'm offering you a free 6-page guide to pitching. This guide will unlock the keys to priming your pitch, where you can get started getting a yes when you pitch anything to anyone. Grab it at inthekey.co/prime. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time on Key Conversations. The theme song on this podcast was provided by yours truly. If you're interested to find out more about my composing and songwriting projects, go to inthekey.co/Cheryl. If you're a musician looking to get some real results for your music career, then head to inthekey.co/results, where I've created a bunch of different kinds of resources just for you. Key Conversations is sponsored in part by Bandzoogle. They make it easy to build a beautiful website for your music. Their step-by-step system gets you online in minutes, and you can choose from hundreds of mobile-friendly themes and customize them with their point-and-click editor. All of the features you can imagine for a possible website are built in. So, because you're a Key Conversations podcast listener, you get a special month free trial plus 15% off if you do decide to sign up. Just for you. Go to inthekey.co/makeasite to get the offer.
Pretty sure that you're the missing part.